This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night. So if you're having legal problems, whether it's a car accident you've got to deal with, maybe you've got a workers' compensation question, maybe you've got issues with child custody, tonight's the night to call in or text in. You can call and ask us live on the air, 256-536-0077, or text to that same number if you're a little shy and don't want to go exactly on the air. And we have some of your text. We've also got, you can email any day, anytime, any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waytv.com, and when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out, and we've got some of your email questions too. William Meservey and Bobby Marsh are with us from Timberlake, League and Brooks. Good to have you guys here.
Glad to be here tonight.
Hey, Sharon.
Should be interesting to see what kind of Ask Us Anything night.
Yeah.
We get all kinds of questions. So as you're calling in, texting in, we want to get you started with some video. We always like to bring you some You Make the Law Call video like this one. And you guys have had some kind of case that's similar to this. So what if you're eating out at a restaurant or walking down the sidewalk and this happens to you? Boy, they're lucky that this didn't get worse. So I don't know whether a restaurant can do anything to prevent crazy driving like this. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. But talk us through what you see, and you've had a case like this as well.
Yeah, we had a similar case once upon a time involving a Waffle House where, you know, a driver had been out all evening partying.
Yeah, that's...
And it was about
I bet this one was too.
6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And they veered off the road, having passed out, and their foot hit the accelerator, and they're going about 100 miles per hour. They jumped a minivan and took out the entire corner of the Waffle House. And luckily, no one was sitting there.
Thank
But in
goodness.
that particular case, you know, and it's going to be similar for the one we just watched, right? The restaurant is going to have a property damage claim.
Okay.
For the property damaged by the motorist. Anyone who is hit by any flying debris is going to have a claim against that motorist.
Okay.
And then of note in our Waffle House case is a bunch of debris hit a worker.
Okay.
And that worker had both a workers' compensation case, since they were injured on the job, and they also had what we call a third-party case, which is just a standard, you know, case against the motor vehicle driver. And so that can happen where you have two cases at the same time coming out of the same event. And, you know, in that particular instance, you're going to have workers' comp providing you with your main benefits of medical treatment, temporary total disability, which is sort of like wage relief. It's 2/3 what you normally make while the authorized treating physician has you out of work. And then lastly, you're entitled to some sum of money for permanent partial impairment or permanent total disability. But workers' comp gets to subrogate against that third-party claim against the motorist.
Meaning what?
Meaning that they get to be reimbursed what they pay out on your behalf.
Okay.
And so those particular claims get incredibly complex because there's a lot of different strategies and moving parts at play. You know, you're trying to maximize your client's treatment through workers' comp. Then once they get there, you're sort of trying to make that workers' comp lien go away for the least amount of money possible to create this higher net to your client out of the motorist case.
Gotcha. Okay. So if something like that happens to you, be sure you see a lawyer so you've talked through all of the issues that are out there. Okay, we got text messages coming in. As we said, you can text, you can call in. We've got text, but we've also got Jean on the line with a question from Albertville. Hi, Jean. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes.
Hi,
What
Jean.
is the maximum amount that you can take anyone through small claims court?
Small claims. What's the limit now? Does anybody remember the limit currently?
So they've recently, and recently it was about 6 years ago, they recently raised the limit of small claims court to $7,500. And so if you've got something, a claim against someone that's worth $7,500 or less, you can take that down to small claims court, file it yourself. And it's a pretty substantial increase from where it was before.
Yeah.
And small claims court is very pro-se friendly, meaning, you know, if you don't have an attorney, it's very accessible. The paperwork can be found online. It's very, like I said, pro-se friendly, a lot easier to navigate maybe than a jury trial would be or a typical, you know, circuit court matter.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize there's different court systems in Madison County, right? We've got Huntsville Municipal Court.
Okay.
We've got juvenile court. We got some form of family court, don't we?
Domestic relations, yep.
Yep, and that's going to take place at the courthouse and circuit court typically.
Yeah.
Okay, so circuit court is where you see claims, civil claims, in excess of $20,000. So they've got jurisdiction for any claims over $20,000. District court is often forgot about on the civil side.
Yeah.
But district court has expedited rules for discovery and things, so you can get in and out of trial quicker. There is more discovery, or more discovery possible than in small claims court. You know, but in district court, they're going to have some concurrent jurisdiction with small claims court.
Okay.
So they can also handle those smaller claims. But those claims now extend up to $20,000.
Okay.
And that is a huge relief because there's a substantial portion of $10,000 to $20,000 claims that were having to be filed in circuit court. And now we can file those in district court. You know, and then there's, like we said, there's small claims court. So there's several different court systems that can be utilized by the public.
Good luck with it, Gene. So we got this text question. Phil from Madison says, does the Alabama contributory negligence law apply in cases other than traffic litigation? Okay, so first off, you got to explain to everybody, what are we talking about Alabama's contributory negligence law? And then we do talk about it a lot with traffic accidents, right?
Absolutely.
Does it apply to other things?
So I could take this one. So contributory negligence is, we're the only state in the union that has a law this strict, but it essentially states that if you contribute in any way to your injury or to the accident at all, then you're fully barred from recovery. So this works a little bit differently than a state with, say, comparative negligence, which would be the jury at the end of a trial would be responsible for proportioning out what percentage of fault each party had. Contributory negligence, if you are 0.5%, if you're 1% at fault, you're fully barred from recovery, and that's a very, strict standard to have to get over.
Yeah, and this is really an old standard. At one time, all the states embraced contributory negligence. Okay, but most of them have moved to what we call the modern approach, as Bobby described, with comparative negligence, which means if you're 5% at fault, you can still recover 95% of the damages. If you're 10% at fault, you can recover 90% of the damages. It's a little bit more of a forgiving system.
Yeah.
Whereas in Alabama, if you contribute 0.001% to the cause of your collision, you can be completely barred from any sort of recovery.
So does it apply to things other than traffic cases? Y'all have other personal injury cases it applies to?
It can apply to other civil situations as well. I would agree with you that we typically see it in motor vehicle collisions, but certainly it exists in other civil claims as well.
Okay. We've got Mary on the line with a question from Albertville. Hi, Mary. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes. I was wondering, I thought years ago, like the bathroom laws, that if you run a public business, that you needed to have a public restroom, because like my husband, he has Crohn's and a lot of other stomach issues. And most places you go now is out of business, no public restroom, so you have to sort of map out when you leave the house where you can go. So I was just wondering, how is that a law, or is that just something that...
That's interesting. Surely stores would be getting in trouble if there were a law.
I'm not aware of any municipal or county codes that would necessarily require a business to have a public restroom, right? But there may be some provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act that does. And so we can look into that for you. If you want to give us a call, we'll do a little bit of research and see if we can find for you exactly what the law says about public restrooms in businesses.
Cool. Any new laws regarding timeshare exits? And is it better to use an exit company or a lawyer? Got any experience with timeshare? I hear those commercials all the time with the specialists that will get you out of your timeshare.
I will say that John Oliver did a very interesting...
Love John Oliver.
Take on the timeshare business and the timeshare escape business. And he's been an episode on both.
Ooh,
and I would highly recommend you go watch them if you have either interest in buying a timeshare or interest in trying to leave one.
Financial advisors tell you don't do it also.
It can saddle your children with debt as well. So it's a very complicated process. What I will say is that particular industry that promises you that they can get you out of timeshares, you've got to be a little bit careful with those. That particular business industry is strife with pretenders, and unfortunately, more scams.
Yeah.
So do your research is the main thing, and if you can find a lawyer that handles them, that would probably be ideal.
We're going to take a break, be right back answering all of your questions tonight because it's Ask Us Anything night. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of Attorney Michael Timberlake, Attorney Will League, Attorney Heath Brooks, Attorney William Meservey. And hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night, so you call in 256-536-0077. You can also text us questions, and we've got some of your text questions coming in. We've got William Meservey and Bobby Marsh from Timberlake, League & Brooks answering questions tonight. They specialize in personal injury cases, so that's everything from car accidents to medical malpractice, and coming up on Christmas, product liability.
Yeah.
We always invite you to send in email questions, too, and we had one.
Yes, and I'm hoping you can help us with this, Sharon, given your specialty in family law.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping your answer will be better than the one I would give. So the email question is from Jill. She says, I'm separated and in the middle of a divorce. My husband just got a settlement from a car wreck. Even though I wasn't in the wreck, do I have a right to any of that money?
Gotcha. And I've seen this kind of question before, Jill, so probably not. Normally, personal injury settlements they belong to the person who was injured. Now, sometimes part of that settlement might have been for loss of consortium, lack of companionship. So during that period of time, you haven't had your loved one around. That person has not been able to participate in the family. You might be awarded something in a personal injury case as the spouse. But if it's not designated as that, you're going to have a hard time getting it. And a lot of times the settlements are not written to say that.
That's true. And let me ask you this question. Does the timing of this affect that answer?
It could. One of the things is if that money has already been received and you've put it in bank accounts, if your spouse, Jill, I'm assuming you've got a husband, just generalizing, if he's put it into the joint account, it's all commingled.
Right.
And the judge can't determine which dollar is which dollar. So now you've got a right to that because it's all mixed in with your money. And it wouldn't even matter necessarily if it was mixed in with a joint account with your name on it. If it's mixed in with your husband's account in his name where he's been putting his paychecks are joint assets.
Yeah.
So
if this had been 2 or 3 years before the divorce initiated, then there's a possibility that it may have been commingled, as you say.
It depends. So watch for it.
We get this question a lot too, Sharon, and in this same vein. But hey, I'm going through a divorce, or I'm about, we're in the process, and now my spouse's parent has died.
Yeah.
And they're postured to inherit some quantity of money. Is the answer similar?
It is similar because you are not entitled to an inheritance unless. So if it's gotten commingled, that's an issue. Right. So if you're the spouse who's inheriting, you ought to be watchful as well what you do with that money, okay? So just keep things in mind.
Yeah, fair enough.
We've got Tressie on the line with a question from Arab. Hi, Tressie. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
My husband passed away 3 years ago, and I got to draw his VA. Okay. Well, last month they told me because I drawed his Social Security, I wasn't allowed to draw his VA and his Social Security. Said because I was drawing $998 too much in Social Security to get his wife's benefits, a VA. How does that work?
I don't know the answer to your question, but mainly because it's not necessarily a legal one. When we're talking about government benefits, specifically from the VA, it can get very confusing on what those rules and regulations are, and they do mirror and interplay with Social Security benefits. So there's a lot of room there to sort of run off the rails. What I will tell you is there is a fantastic organization called the DAV, Disabled American Veterans. I know there's a chapter in Huntsville. I think she says she's in Albertville. Arab, and there may be one there as well. So I would check, but if not, there's certainly a location in Huntsville, which isn't too far of a drive. But they are able to assist veterans and veterans' family members with VA benefits, and they know all the rules, regulations, in and out. That would be my first stop if I were in your shoes.
We got this email question from Kelly. Kelly wrote in, my husband was very seriously injured at work due to a defective machine and will be in the hospital for a while. Does his receiving workers' comp mean we can't file a personal injury claim? Okay, a defective machine at work.
So the short answer of that is maybe. Workers' compensation has with it what is called the sole and exclusivity rule. And this is part of the statutory language that says your sole and exclusive remedy if you're injured on the job is workers' compensation. Okay. But it does provide a few exceptions to that, all right? If the injury was caused by a third party.
Okay.
And if that third party happened to negligently manufacture a product.
Okay.
And so you've got a defective product that injures a worker, then there is a possibility there. Or if you had a supervisor remove a manufacturer's guard off that product,
okay,
then you would have a potential personal injury claim on top of your workers' compensation claim. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the episode with that car wreck. You could have a workers' comp claim and the car wreck at the same time, but that's because the car wreck was caused by a third party.
Gotcha.
So it gets pretty complicated, and the law is pretty strict on those types of claims. It's sort of like looking through the porthole of a boat. It's a very narrow view of when those types of claims are actionable, but certainly worth investigating.
Absolutely. That's where the evidence would be very important too, just to figure out what happened with the product or what happened, you know, with the injury, what could have caused it. Photos, things of that nature would be very helpful. So make sure to preserve any evidence of what happened.
Yeah. Now, of course, when you're on the job, it can be very difficult to preserve evidence.
Definitely be difficult.
However, in that particular scenario, workers' comp would be incentivized to share some of that with you.
Okay.
Because they want to get reimbursed out of that other claim. They want their money back.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not that you're joining forces per se, but in that one unique lane of travel, you do sort of hop in the same car together, but you're still juxtaposed in just about every other way.
Mm-hmm. We've got Douglas on the line with a question from Leeton. Hi, Douglas. Thanks for calling. What's your, I think we've lost Douglas.
We lost him.
Okay. How about Becca from Langston? Hi, Becca. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, ma'am. My husband has gotten colon cancer from his place of employment, and I was wondering if you were able to sue a municipality.
Okay. We're sorry about his illness.
Very sorry about that diagnosis. You can sue a municipality. However, the rules shift on you a little bit.
Okay.
Right? So you have state immunity and state agent immunity, and that's a form of sovereign immunity that can be very difficult to pierce. Okay. There is also a form of municipal immunity, but it's not in the form that says they're immune. It caps your damages, or arguably caps your damages, at $100,000.
Ooh.
And so there is some law on the books, and they will make that argument that they only owe you $100,000. Now, there's some case law that can help you get around it, but only in certain situations.
Okay. We got this text question. My son was recently involved in a motor vehicle accident in which he was the contributing factor. Along with him were 2 passengers in the car, and one of the passengers passed away last night. We're sorry to hear about that. Can he be charged with the passenger's death?
All right. I'm going to read this again because I think I missed the very first part of that. All right. My son was recently involved in a motor vehicle accident in which he was the contributing factor. Along with himself, there were 2 passengers in the car. One of the passengers passed away last night. Can he be charged with the passenger's death? So there are situations where you do see criminal charges come out of car accidents, okay? And those criminal charges are typically going to stem from a few things. Intoxication, whether it be alcohol or drugs.
Okay.
Some form of road rage.
Okay.
Or racing, street racing. Anything that's going to push you out of the category of negligence, which is, think of like a simple mistake.
Just a fluke.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just an accident.
Okay.
Right? But anything that involves what we call wantonness,
Okay.
which is reckless or with a disregard for the law,
Yeah.
then you could see, you know, vehicular manslaughter, negligent manslaughter. You can see some of those things come out of those. Now, if the situation where, hey, look, your son just made a mistake, it was an accident, I wouldn't anticipate any criminal charges coming out of that.
Okay.
But certainly if it's something that involves something more, you could.
Okay. Okay. Another text. We purchased a new house from a builder who's no longer in business. We're now having issues with the roof leaking and several windows leaking. Any recourse, or is the loss coming out of my pocket? If the builder is gone, what are the chances of getting something out of them?
Difficult. Difficult is the answer. And, you know, some of it matters if a new company was formed,
Okay.
or if that old company was bought by another company. Did they buy their liabilities in addition to their assets? So there sometimes is a way. Sometimes the corporate veil, so to speak, isn't can be penetrated. But, you know, largely if a company files for bankruptcy, it can be extremely difficult to ever recover something out of them. Now, sometimes when you buy a new home or build a new house, you get a warranty.
That's right. And so that warranty could provide different protections too against, you know, depending on what the workmanship of the home was or whatever the case may be. So there may be different protections for you available under that warranty, like William said.
And then other things can be also covered by homeowners insurance. So certainly worth exploring all your options, you know, but actually tracking down the builder and recovering something, maybe.
Seems like that. A lot of them go in and out of business,
shot.
don't they?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Okay, we're going to take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions. It's Ask Us Anything night. Stay with us. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with William Meservey and Bobby Marsh with Timberlake, League, and Brooks. The number 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And Sharon Doviet practices family law. That's everything from divorce, adoption, custody issues. She's here in Huntsville, 256-539-7337, and you can find her on the web at SharonFamilyLaw.com.
In our last seconds, holiday time, gift giving coming up, lots of toys. There's always some toy that hurts people. Any tips on that?
Exploding batteries, whatever it may be.
Hoverboards, right? Yes.
Who's to predict what this year's will be? But if that happens to you, make sure that you preserve the evidence. Take pictures. Keep the toy. Keep it in your possession. Do not send it back to the company. You will never see it again.
And you're going to need it for your case, aren't you?
You're going to need it.
Thanks for all your questions. We'll see you next week.